Did you know that flocks of birds cost commercial airlines up to $1.2 billion annually and over $400 million in the United States alone? The majority of accidents caused by bird strikes occur when the bird is either sucked into the engine of a jet or when the bird flies into the windscreen. What's the worst that could happen when a bird gets sucked into the jet engine? Where do birds of prey come in? Join us as we discuss how birds of prey keep airport airspaces safe. Before you get too comfy in your airplane seat, you might want to keep an eye out for the Canadian goose. The Canadian goose has been crowned as the third most lethal animal to aircraft behind deer and vultures. There are roughly 240 collisions between aircraft and the Canadian goose every year in the US. The amount of damage a bird does to the aircraft all depends on the size, weight, and speed of the bird and aircraft. The heavier and faster the bird is, the more potential damage there is to the aircraft. The momentum can wreak havoc on an airborne aircraft, and frankly, you don't really want that. Almost all the recorded damage done to aircraft by bird strikes have affected the forward-facing parts of the aircraft. We're talking about the windscreen, the nose cones, and engines. Bird strikes to the nose cone can cause dramatic damage but rarely present a reason for the flight to be aborted. But the windscreen damage can be more severe, since a shattered windscreen can mean a loss of cabin pressure, and once that happens, the pilot would have to divert to a nearby airport. It is usually that serious. The biggest risk to flight safety is when a bird gets caught in the engine of an aircraft. This is known as jet engine ingestion and can cause the engine to fail. As most airplanes are capable of flying on one engine without issue, this would normally mean a diversion to the nearest airport, but nothing to be too concerned about. However, what are the odds that birds could be ingested by both engines? This is a very rare occurrence and will most likely result in a dual engine failure. There is one well-known example. Remember the 2016 hit movie Sully, which starred Tom Hanks as Sullenberger? Well, it was based on a true-life story. On the 15th of January 2009, an Airbus A320 en route to Charlotte from New York City's LaGuardia Airport flew into a flock of birds shortly after the plane had taken off. It's not common for bird strikes to affect both engines, but that was exactly what Sully had on his hands, a dual engine failure. With no power, there was no suitable airport for pilots Chesley Sullenberg and Jeffrey Skiles to use for an emergency landing. Instead, they decided to heroically glide the aircraft into the Hudson River, where all 155 people on board, which consisted of 5 crew members and 150 passengers, were rescued by boats. Only a handful of people were injured. This flight has been crowned the Miracle on the Hudson and is considered to be the most successful ditching in aviation history. All crew on board were awarded the Master's Medal of the Honorable Company of Air Pilots and Air Navigators for their heroic and unique aviation achievement. Another incident took place on the 17th of May 2020 when an aircraft crashed with the Canadian Forces Snowbirds demonstration team in Kamloops, British Columbia, killing a captain and seriously injuring another. The Snowbirds had been in the midst of a cross-country tour aimed at boosting morale during the COVID-19 pandemic. This collision resulted in the death of Captain Jennifer Casey, a public affairs officer from Halifax, was killed, while another captain, Richard McDougall, who was piloting the aircraft, sustained serious but non-life-threatening injuries. So yes, birds can be a menace. So how do we get them out of the way so that they don't cause engine failures mid-air and at the same time planes don't shrink their population? This is where the birds of prey come in. No, not Joker's Harlequin. In Wrocław Airport, Poland, hawks have been employed in several of Poland's airfields and airports to keep the takeoff and landing airspace clear of smaller birds. Vygaudas Usakas, a member of the board of directors at Avia Solutions Group, says that animals have become an important part of the aviation industry in recent years and are helping in ensuring the safety of both the wildlife and the airports around the world. Usakas explains, as birds of prey, they circle around the airport's territory and naturally repel any smaller birds that could fall into its talons. The smaller birds then avoid flying anywhere near where the falcons' hunting grounds are. This way, falcons ensure the safety of the runways at airports. Unexpected wanderings of wildlife into the airport territory often cause delays that, in turn, would weigh heavy on flight schedules and start a chain reaction that will delay your summer holidays. While hawks and falcons chase birds off the airport, goats and sheep replace noisy machinery that are to take care of the lawns and landscape. While overgrown lawns might not seem like a big threat at airports, it still invites trouble. Unkempt landscape brings more insects that in turn attract small birds. Thus, airports are maintaining the landscape to also reduce the risk of drawing in smaller birds. However, using heavy machinery and herbicides can seriously affect the environment, so while looking for more eco-friendly ways to deal with landscape maintenance, several airports like Chicago O'Hare International Airport in the US have looked back at barn animals to take care of that. That's how you keep the lawns manicured at minimal cost to the environment. But in some airports, goats and sheep can fall prey to coyotes and dangerous snakes, so additionally airports employ bodyguards for the grass eaters. Who are the bodyguards? Llamas and donkeys! There is another type of winged creature that can be found now in airport territories: honeybees. Over the years, bees surprisingly have caused quite a ruckus at several airports in Europe and North America. Pittsburgh International Airport in the US, for example, had a swarm of thousands of bees grounding an aircraft for hours, interrupting refueling and baggage loading. But whenever they are not the villains, they make good heroes too. The disruptions caused by traveling swarms of honeybees looking for a new home have launched numerous projects that not only provided apiaries for the little workers, but have also assisted in monitoring air quality. By housing these little guys within the airport territory, the scientists are able to measure the level of toxins, heavy metals and hydrocarbons in the collected honey and track emissions and overall carbon footprint. Innovative ways of keeping wildlife off airports do not stop there. A bird-like drone is being flown at Southampton Airport to try and scare other birds away from plane engines during takeoff and landing. The robotic bird of prey looks and moves like the real thing, but is remotely controlled from the ground by a drone pilot. The innovative creation aims to keep runways safer and reduce flight delays. Brussels Airport and Skies, for example, will continue to explore the possible uses of drones for bird control at the airport. To that effect, the airport has been conducting tests to monitor the presence of birds and to direct them away from aircraft when necessary. They report that tests happen in safe conditions during normal operations and will have no impact on the air traffic. There are other recommended means of keeping birds away. One such proposal is to hide open water surfaces at the airport. Birds flock around open water spaces as you flock around your boss on payday. One of the ways to stop birds flocking around is to use bird balls in open water spaces. It's cheap, quick and easy to install, requires a one-time investment, plus no maintenance, and cannot be damaged by extreme weather conditions. Bird balls can be used to cover firewater tanks, rainwater tanks, basins of wastewater treatments, in fact, any liquid that may be attractive to birds. By camouflaging water surfaces around airports, the number of birds who like the wet habitat can drastically be reduced since they no longer have access to water. This considerably reduces the probability of bird strikes and could put an end to whatever nuisance they might have been. It's important to note that the use of balls is particularly effective against bigger birds such as ducks, geese, herons. This brings with the balls a huge advantage, as these birds can cause much bigger damage to the aircraft than smaller birds. Besides camouflaging, it helps to preserve water quality in firewater tanks by reducing the amount of sunlight entering the water and creating an unfavorable habitat for algae and aquatic plants by significantly worsening the conditions for reproduction, also reducing evaporation by a massive 90% so that the tanks need to be refilled less often to keep the required water level. In case of fire, water can be easily accessed whilst the balls do not block the use of water. In case of rainwater tanks, the balls follow the movement of the liquid level, so in periods of low rainfall, they are at the bottom of the empty pool, and when the rainfall arrives, they again perform their function by floating on the top of the water. Whether it's birds of prey, goats, drones or balls, airlines will be saved a whole lot of trouble if the birds are kept off the airports. So next time you want to catch a flight and you spot a falcon on duty, toss a treat. Thanks for watching this video. Which one of them do you prefer? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and see you on the next one. Until then, bye!